SKOL Vikings, let's win this game.
Attention Vikings fan, buckle up because today's news cycle is on fire. An unexpected injury opens the door for a young pass rusher to prove his value under the primetime lights, and the team just made a cornerback signing that's shaking up the defensive room. And it doesn't stop there. Another signing, a veteran tight end and a wide receiver, arrives just before the Falcons game to patch up gaps caused by injuries. On top of that, a shocking twist with the kicker position promises to spice up the showdown against Atlanta. And to close it off, an opposing running back looms as the biggest threat to crash the purple party at US Bank Stadium. All that and more you're about to find out right now. Welcome. Show your Vikings pride with a like and a comment. The epic win over the Bears is still echoing in every fan's mind, but the NFL doesn't let anyone breathe. It's already time to look ahead to the next clash, and it comes with an extra flavor, the home opener at US Bank Stadium. And as if the pressure of primetime wasn't enough, the Minnesota Vikings face an unexpected twist. Injuries opening the door for names most fans never imagined seeing on the field this early. And that's exactly where a story begins that could completely change the course of this defense. Andrew Van Ginkel, a key piece in the rotation, won't be available. Jeff Okudah, still trying to prove himself, is also out. And in place of those familiar names comes the golden chance for Dallas Turner and especially Gabriel Murphy. Turner, in his second year, has already flashed explosiveness, but now may be forced to embrace a spotlight role sooner than expected. And Murphy, freshly elevated from the practice squad, could get his shot live in front of millions to prove he's not just filling out the roster, he's ready to make an impact. Just imagine, Brian Flores' defense, already known for its aggression, gets a fresh burst of energy from a player entering fearless, with no status pressure, only the hunger to prove he belongs. This is the kind of moment that separates ordinary careers from legendary stories. How many times have we seen an unknown rise from nowhere and, in a primetime game, become a hero? Would it really shock anyone if that happened again against the Falcons? But it's not just the individual side that matters. Atlanta comes in with a fast-paced offense, loaded with players capable of exploiting any weakness. If Murphy and Turner can't hold up, the Vikings could struggle to keep the score tight, putting even more weight on J.J. McCarthy's shoulders. At the same time, if these young guys fight through and deliver, they could turn a weakness into an unexpected strength, sending a message to the rest of the league. No matter who goes down, this defense always finds answers. And while all the attention has been locked in on the offense led by the rookie sensation, the real turning point might actually be happening on the other side of the ball. Because fan, if these kids step up on Sunday, no one will be talking about injuries anymore, only about the depth and the heart of this roster. Amid all the roster moves we've come to expect in the NFL, some barely make a ripple. But don't be fooled, it's often in these small details that a team builds its backbone, and the Minnesota Vikings just pulled off another one of those under-the-radar moves that could pay off big. The name isn't flashy, but the story is worth noting. Tyrek Funderburk, former Tampa Bay Buccaneers cornerback, found a new home in purple and gold, a reset, and maybe even a springboard to surprise. He wasn't drafted in 2024, came out of Appalachian State practically unknown. Even so, he carved out space in Tampa. And when the Bucs were hit by injuries, guess who had to step up? Him. 13 games played, 2 starts, 14 tackles, 1 pass defended, and 1 forced fumble. Not jaw-dropping numbers, but they show something critical. When called on, he didn't flinch. He's the type who may not make headlines, but delivers steady play and learns fast under pressure. Now, under Brian Flores' command, Tyrek arrives in Minnesota with a double challenge. First, to help gear up against the Falcons, an opponent he already knows well from NFC South matchups. Second, to prove he can go beyond practice body and truly earn a role in a secondary that, let's be honest, is still searching for stability. Fans know, losing Jeff Okudah stings, and even with Fabian Moreau stepping up, every bit of depth matters. And there's more. You can't overlook the coaching pedigree he carries. He learned under Todd Bowles, one of the top defensive minds in the league. Now he switches to Flores, another strategist famous for squeezing the most out of overlooked players. Could there be a better setup for growth? Funderburk may not see the field this Sunday, but his presence on the roster sends a clear message. The Vikings aren't leaving any cracks uncovered. Every piece counts, every addition matters, and even the harshest critic has to admit this move shows long-term planning. Because while others focus only on stars, Minnesota keeps building the foundation that could make all the difference when the season heats up. Fan, every NFL win comes at a cost. The triumph over the Bears brought joy but also left wounds that still sting in the locker room. 2 key names landed on injured reserve, Blake Cashman, the starting linebacker who was commanding the defense with intensity, and Ty Chandler, the backup running back who brought fresh legs to the offense. That forced the Minnesota Vikings to reshuffle and bring in 2 reinforcements to keep the roster competitive. Veteran tight end Nick Vannett and wide receiver Tim Jones, both promoted from the practice squad. Vannett arrives with a solid resume, 10 seasons of experience, more than 100 catches, and the confidence of having faced just about every possible scenario on the field. Last year with the Titans, he contributed 17 receptions, 135 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Not a star, but exactly the type of player who steadies the ship and keeps the system from falling apart when starters need rest. Behind T.J. Hawkinson and Josh Oliver, Vannett is an immediate insurance policy, and with Ben Urosek still shaky, he could steal some valuable snaps against the Falcons. Tim Jones may be quieter, but he's just as valuable. In the last game against Chicago, he logged only 3 offensive snaps, but that already puts him next in line if anything happens to the main receiving trio. And in a long season, with injuries piling up and suspensions like Jordan Addison still looming, every bit of depth is welcome. The big problem, though, is the sheer size of the injury list. Christian Darrisaw remains out, prolonging his return. Andrew Van Ginkel and Jeff Okudah are sidelined with concussions. Even Harrison Smith is a question mark, still building back his conditioning. Add to that others already on injured reserve like C.J. Ham and Tyler Batty, and the picture gets concerning. Even so, the sportsbooks still list Minnesota as 3.5-point favorites. And why is that? Because even shorthanded, this team showed against the Bears that it has heart. J.J. McCarthy proved he can carry the torch, and the defense showed it can hold the line through chaos. The matchup with Atlanta will be another resilience test, and every snap from these reinforcements could be the difference between keeping the momentum or stumbling at home. In the NFL, every detail matters. Sometimes it's not the quarterback, not the star wide receiver, but a single kick that seals a game's fate. And the showdown between the Minnesota Vikings and Atlanta Falcons just gained an extra layer of suspense thanks to an unusual decision at kicker. The Falcons announced that Young-Ho Koo, one of the league's most reliable kickers, is out. Taking his place, Parker Romo, a name that for Vikings fans rings very familiar. Romo suited up for Minnesota last season. He stepped in when Will Reichard got hurt, and he delivered 11 of 12 field goals made, 7 of 8 extra points converted. Not small feats, especially under the pressure of wearing a jersey for a team where every detail is magnified. Now fate flips the script. Romo lines up against the Vikings, tasked with scoring points against the very team that gave him his first real shot in the league. And here's where it gets juicier, his first-hand knowledge of Minnesota's special team system. Of course, we're not talking playbook secrets, but even the tiniest insight can tilt the balance for Atlanta in critical moments. Add the psychological angle. If the game comes down to the final minutes and Romo's foot decides it, the narrative writes itself as pure primetime drama. From Minnesota's perspective, the lesson is clear. Don't leave it up to chance. The defense must set the tone early, J.J. McCarthy and the offense must build a cushion, and above all, the team can't allow the outcome to rest on one final kick. Fans can already picture it. The former Viking bearing his old squad under the lights. That's the nightmare no one wants replayed. What looked like just a kicker switch has become a central storyline in Week 2. And fan, take note. If this Falcons clash was already tense, with Parker Romo on the field, the stakes just skyrocketed. If there's one name capable of turning Sunday night into a nightmare for the Minnesota Vikings defense, it's Bijan Robinson. Drafted 8th overall in 2023, the running back didn't light up the stat sheet on the ground against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, just 24 yards on 12 carries, but the danger hides in the details. While bottled up by Tampa's front, he exploded in the passing game with 6 catches, 100 receiving yards, and a touchdown that shook the stadium. A simple screen, a short pass, and Robinson reminded everyone why he's one of the league's scariest playmakers. Vikings fans know this type of play has been Brian Flores' Achilles heel. Quick throws to backs in space, plays that seem harmless at first, can turn into 50-yard daggers in seconds. That's exactly how Robinson scored in Week 1, shredding defenders who couldn't keep up with his speed and agility. If Minnesota gives him daylight, it could be lethal. The recent history against Atlanta offers some comfort. In the last 2 meetings, Robinson was held in check through the air, with just 4 catches for 17 yards. On the ground, though, he did damage. 143 yards across the 2 games, averaging more than 4.5 per carry, plus a rushing touchdown last season. The silver lining is Minnesota still won both games, and 6 of the last 7 overall. The downside? This Falcons squad arrives more balanced, with Michael Penix running the offense and Drake London and Darnell Mooney cleared from injury. Meanwhile, the Vikings are beaten up. Blake Cashman, a run defense anchor, is on injured reserve. Andrew Van Ginkel, a master at sniffing out screens, is also sidelined. Jeff Okudah won't play, and even Harrison Smith is questionable. That's a brutal list at the worst possible time, just as they need all hands on deck to contain a generational back like Robinson. This game won't be decided solely by J.J. McCarthy's arm, but by whether the defense can rise to the challenge against a weapon who can flip the scoreboard in a heartbeat. Sunday Night Football sets the stage. Minnesota's hunger for another primetime win collides with Atlanta's most explosive threat. And shutting down Bijan Robinson could be the fine line between another magical night or a painful missed opportunity. With all that, one thing is clear. The Minnesota Vikings season is already a roller coaster of emotions. Injuries open doors for young players to chase the spotlight. Signings reinforce the defense and the offense at just the right time. Even a kicker twist adds extra drama to the Atlanta showdown. And on the other side, a dangerous running back is ready to test every limit of this squad. But it's exactly in this chaos that the purple and gold spirit shines through. But none of this means anything without the fans' energy. Now's the time to support, to question, to debate. Because this journey is just getting started. Which story caught your attention the most? And what other moves do you think this team still needs to make? Drop a comment, share this video, and hit that subscribe button for all the latest Vikings updates. Stay tuned. SKOL Vikings, let's go.